Hello, folks. An impromptu live session today. I'm going to be talking about graphic novels. Obviously, most of the authors we have on this channel have written proper narrative books, but one of the things I really like is graphic novels. If you're a World War II TV viewer and perhaps you're trying to get someone in your family who's a bit younger interested in World War II, perhaps you would like them to share your interest. Graphic novels are a good way of bringing people to the subject because they are what they sound like. They are a graphic way of explaining World War II. So I'm going to go take you through a few of my favorite books, just a very brief show this, and see what you think. So the first one is this book here called Two Generals by Scott Chantler. And it's not about two generals, it's about two officers. They have aspirations to become senior officers. That's why it's called that title. And it's about two members of the Highland Light Infantry. So Canadian Highland Light Infantry. It takes them through how they become friends, their training, and it also takes you through D-Day and what happened afterwards. And it's exceptionally well done. The graphics are really good. I don't know if you can see that very clearly on the camera there. Particularly one of my favorites is the actual bit where they come ashore on D-Day, and there's the famous recreation of the very famous photo there of the house on Juno Beach and the LCI they come ashore from. It's a really good book. You can do it in about half an hour or so, and it's just fantastic. It's a great way of introducing perhaps Canadians or people generally to the subject of D-Day and sacrifice, because it is about brother officers and loss and how they come to terms with facing combat and losing their friends. So that's the first one, really good one. Second book, similar subject, similar format, is this one here called Twists of Fate by Paco Roca. Now this is about the Spanish volunteers who were part of the French 2nd Armored Division. If you didn't know there were Spanish volunteers in the French 2nd Armored Division, well, yes, there were. So this is an author. So it's fictional, but it's factual, if you know what I mean, in that the author has taken a fictional character. He discovers this veteran living in Spain or in France, possibly, or anyway, France possibly, and he takes him back to the fact he served in World War II. And over the course of the book, this young writer, this is sort of set about 5-10 years ago, meets this veteran. The veteran gradually shares with him his recollections of World War II, and it tells the real story of the formation of the French 2nd Armored Division, so their training in North Africa, etc., etc. Again, the graphics are fantastic. I mean, the quality of these images are really stunning. You know, you really do feel like you're walking through the streets of these cities. And, you know, when you get to, for example, the liberation of Paris later in the book, it has a very good map of showing the route of French 2nd Armored Division. These are photos of the half tracks going down the Champs-Élysées. It is in English. It's also available in its natural language of Spanish. So it's quite a thick book. Again, you can rattle through it in a short space of time. So it's a good factual understanding of the French 2nd Armored Division's war, but with a focus on the Spanish men who fought. So it takes you through the politics and the fact that some of the Allies were a bit suspicious of these guys and where they'd come from before they joined the armored unit. It's a really, really good book. I recommend it thoroughly. Next one, any Americans watching this will be familiar with, back in the 1960s, there was the famous Sergeant Rock character. So Sergeant Rock was another fictional character who kind of was a legendary, almost like superhero in a sense. But Billy Tucci, who is much better known for his kind of fantasy comics, a few years ago, he reinserted Sergeant Rock into a proper World War II scenario. And it's this book here, Sergeant Rock, Billy Tucci, The Lost Battalion. Billy Tucci was a guest on my channel talking about graphic novels a couple of years ago. So this time, Sergeant Rock is in the area where the 4th 42nd were. So the famous Lost Battalion. And again, Billy not only writes, but he illustrates his own graphic novels. The imagery is absolutely outstanding. You see half tracks being blown up. You see the forests and everything. It doesn't always show up very well on my webcam here and with the green screen behind me, but it's graphic. I mean, the words graphic novel are that the violence is not always censored. It is in there, and you know, you see blood, you see searing injuries, but it's a really good way of understanding that campaign through the viewpoint of a fictional character who is then inserted into a scenario with real characters. So again, you will learn the real story of the 442nd and the rescue of them by other units. So this is the Second World War, the Vosges Mountains, if you're not familiar with that. It's fantastic. It's a really good, again, you can do it in about half an hour. It's a very thin book. Really, really good. That's my next one. I'm a huge fan of Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis is probably better known for writing The Boys and The Punisher, so he's into kind of that fantasy world. The Boys is a big TV hit, but he also is a massive World War II fan. And Garth has also been on my channel a couple of years ago talking about graphic novels. So I've got a whole series of Garth Ennis books. So he's Northern Irish, but lives in New York these days and comes over to various comic festivals. So the first one is the most recent one I acquired, which is The Lion and the Eagle, which is about the Chindit, the second Chindit operation. And I was talking to Robert Lyman about this. Robert Lyman, as you know, has been on the channel. He's written about Burma and the Chindits, and he hasn't actually read it yet, but he looks like it. Now, the good question there, are they kid friendly? I mean, if kids read any kind of comics and graphic novels, there's nothing in there that they won't see in your regular graphic novels. But yes, there is. This one particularly has some really kind of searing, violent images of people's heads being chopped off by the Japanese. It has the Gurkhas, it has Bren guns. It is a really, really good book. But the imagery is just outstanding. I think you can see there. It's just, you know, the colors, the tones, and it is a very almost 100% accurate version of these Chindit operations, albeit with some, the characters are fictional, but there are some real ones. You know, Ord Wingate is mentioned as the founder of the Chindits and things like that. It does deal with Japanese atrocities. It does deal with the fact that what these men see in combat. It does deal with, you know, banzai charges. So this is the bound volume of what can also be purchased as 4 separate comics. So I bought this and I had it a couple of weeks ago. And look at that image there of the C-46s or C-47s on the airfield there. Just absolutely stunning images. And you have a Sikh in it. You have Gurkhas in it. And I can't look at that image there. I mean, that's just stunning. The one on of the Sikh soldier moving through the jungle there. Just stunning stuff. So I do recommend it. But I would check, if you're an adult and you're thinking about kids, I would think kind of under 10s, definitely not. But if they're teens, I think these comics are definitely graphic novels are definitely worth getting. So that's the next one. So next one is also a Garth Ennis title, and this is Dreaming Eagles. And Dreaming Eagles is the Tuskegee Airmen. Now, you may think the Tuskegee story has been told lots of time. Does it need retelling? Well, perhaps it does. Certainly in this format. Again, if you've got a younger person and you want to introduce them to the fact that World War II was inherently racist, there was segregation, there were all sorts of problems with integration of races and classes in World War II. So Dreaming Eagles, similar scenario to the one about the Spanish volunteers in the Second Armored Division, and it takes you through a veteran looking back on his life, talking to, I think, his grandson. The images are just outstanding. Again, what can you say about these images? You go through the searing air combat of P-51s over Europe. I would suggest, James, you check on the Amazon what the book, the reading ages are suggested for these. I think an 8-year-old, possibly what I'm suggesting today, is a little bit too advanced for them. I don't really know. But this one here, Dreaming Eagles, which is involved in hardback, again, it's absolutely fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. You learn about the Tuskegee Airmen, but you also learn about the race situation. But it's also an exciting, fantastic adventure that takes you very, very quickly through the story, through the campaign, through the flight. Next one, it's Garth Ennis again, and it's the final one we're going to do today, and it is Garth Ennis, Night Witches. So you may have heard of the Night Witches. They are the female Soviet aviators. So again, this is a compilation of comics, probably more adult oriented. There is death, there's sex. The imagery again is absolutely outstanding. And you know, if you get told off by someone, oh, you're reading a comic, you're an adult, why are you reading a comic? The World War II is correct. The history is correct. I really think it's worth watching, or worth reading, I should say. So, you know, the imagery, and this one takes you up to post-war. It takes you up into MiGs and the jets. So it doesn't just go through World War II. And Garth, at the beginning or the end of the comics, depending on how the layout is, he always explains what original texts he uses or used for his history and how the real campaign, how the real fighting, and perhaps he will explain some of his choices as to why to fictionalize certain aspects of it. But basically, the history is solid, and I really, really recommend it. And yeah, and as some of the Garth is more of an adult writing. Mouse, I haven't mentioned Mouse. Mouse, of course, it goes without saying, is a graphic novel worth getting. If it went through a bit of a phase last year or so about the fact it's animals portrayed, it's animals as humanized, so that there's the victims of the Holocaust are mice, then there's dogs and cats and things like that, and it went through a bit of a reappraisal as to whether or not the portrayal of some of the animals was up to date. But it is a really, really good introduction of the Holocaust to younger people. So I could go and get my copy of Mouse, but I'll do that another time, perhaps if I do some Holocaust show on this. In addition to Night Witches by Garth Ennis, he also wrote Sara. And Sara is a fictionalized story of a Russian sniper. We did a couple of shows on World War II TV about the genuine stories of Russian snipers. But again, it takes you into the combat from the point of view of a created character that puts you in the battles over on the Eastern Front there. And there's love and loss and death and the history is sound. For me, graphic novels are really good. I don't find them a light to read because sometimes they're quite searing, they're visceral, they're violent, but they're a quick read. If I'm in between two mammoth great books like a Robert Lyman and a Peter Gaddick Adams, I will read a comic in one night just to kind of clear away the cobwebs and feel I'm progressing with my reading. And you're learning, but you're enjoying the read as well. Charlie's War, in terms of First World War, is something another great one there. But there you are. That is a few of my favorite graphic novels. If you've got other favorites that you think I should have mentioned, put them in the description below. But I reiterate that it's a very good way of introducing people to the subject that perhaps wouldn't want to sit and read a full book, or they're transitioning. You want them to transition from just fiction stuff like Superman and the Hulk and whatever to something where they will be learning as well. It's a good kind of birthday, Christmas present for a young teen in your life who they want comics but you want to help them learn a little bit as well. It's a combination of both factors. So people are a bit sort of snooty about graphic novels, and I think some of the proper history writers say that people who write graphic novels, well, they're just comic writers. Well, try one of these Garth Ennis books, for example, and you'll realize that there's a guy who's done his research, done his historic reading, and is making sure that the history is accurate, but also that it's readable. And the one, the Lion and the Eagle, which is the design of the Chindit badge, takes you through the formation of Chindits. It takes you about why some of the people ended up in that unit, what their motivations were, what they'd experienced with the Japanese in the jungle, and why, and also takes you through whether or not the Chindit concept was entirely valid or not. But all the time, you're in a really fantastic story that's taking you with a couple of characters through the campaign there. And I say it's an easy read. But there we are. I'm going to be going off soon, but I'm going to be back in a few minutes where I'm going to be taking you through some of my First World War favorite books, not graphic novels, actual books about the First World War. So there you are. Sorry if I've spent you money that you weren't expecting to spend, but that's always the way with books. There's always more that you wish you had. And if you're like me, you spend a fortune on books. But the thing is, they are an investment, aren't they? It's not like, spending it down the pub or spending it on other things. You can always pass books on. There's wisdom within those pages, and they tend to keep their value on, if you sell them later on. So it's not a bad thing. It's never a bad thing to spend your money on books. So there you are. I'm Paul Woodadge. This is World War II TV. If you found us via this video, please do consider our longer format shows where historians come on and talk about their favorite subjects. But other than that, I will see you in a few minutes for my favorite First World War books. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers, everybody. Bye.